This is the Principles of Universal Design for Learning and Differentiated Instruction by me. So my first objective is I'll be able to apply the principles of universal design and learning for learning and differentiated instruction to meet the needs of all students in the classroom. That was the objective I picked, and I'm going to be providing you with detailed information about how and why it is necessary to incorporate the UDA and DI to benefit all students. So what is universal design for learning and differentiated instruction? So I have listed the definitions, and I'll be discussing those two subjects today. Both techniques provide students with the ability to make tasks and assignments achievable despite their disability, their skill level, or their language. They focus on adding to our students' strengths and building on more challenging assignments. So, universal design for learning facilitate progress. This is a main topic throughout our discussion, throughout the discussion of our text when talking about UDL. So the first one, multiple means of representation, is saying how will you as an educator illustrate the content you're wanting the student to learn by incorporating the UDL. So are you going to do it through books, through graphic organizers? What means are you using? The second one, multiple means of action and expression, it just deals with how materials provide various ways for your pupils to show their knowledge. And the last one, multiple means of engagement, it shows how the materials benefit the lesson to engage students and pique their interest. So you might be incorporating these techniques, however, it might not be a good UDL for that specific type of learner. So that is what multiple means of engagement are. The next one, I'm talking about differentiated instruction strategies. These are very important, especially because students vary so much on what they understand or how their brain functions to get the information to process to where they do grasp it. So the visual and graphic organizers with your verbal presentation, I feel like that is important for students to gain information and cater to various learning styles in the process. So a child that learns visually, they're going to have a harder time if you're just telling them what to do when they can't see the process. So that's why the visual and graphic organizers are important. And then the models, demonstration, and role-playing. I feel that role-playing is one of the most beneficial differentiated instruction strategies because it gives the students the ability to be active learners by interacting physically through their environment. And the last one, gestures, visualization, and or verbal cues for important information. And I feel this helps students zone in on key information and gives them the ability to recall and store critical concepts. So, planning for UDL with learning disabilities. We use pedagogical methods and technology and hypermedia. So the first one is things such as graphic organizers. They're based on UDL principles so that all students can benefit from them because they introduce students to the information prior to learning. So basically, when you have a student brainstorming information that they're going to be learning, they have more time to soak it in and think about it conceptually. The next one, technology. That's like digital or electronic text to help students' learning needs. It just gives them another outlet to really key into, to zone into information. And then the last one, hypermedia. It's really there to help promote self-advocacy. The program, it gives students acronyms and it assesses them on the acronyms, and majority of the students based on the text who were able to who completed the course were able to run their own IEP conferences. So they had more control over their educational futures, as well as what will be more beneficial in an educational setting for them. Next one, planning UDL with communication disorders. So I did put some facilitative language strategies. For students with communication disorders, this is a crucial element in education because instruction materials, they do have to be universally designed. Only using verbal methods can hinder and make learning materials inaccessible to students with communication disorders. So these are some strategies that our text had that I felt were really important to incorporate. And the next one I am going to be talking about is the one that they said would help students progress, which was graphic organizers, and they help the students take the information to digestible sizes and compare and contrast the information. So this allows students to access their thought process and educators to highlight areas where additional assistance may be required. So it's a win-win on both parties. The next one I did was computer-based programming. This gives students a chance to regulate their actions, and it also leads to students performing better academically and behaviorally in many cases. One of the CBI programs that is outlined in our reading was Kids Tools System. It's basically a system that contains 30 electronic strategy tools for classrooms, but you can also, the student can also use it at home as well, and it follows UDL and CBI principles, so it gives students the ability to problem solve and think on their own, and it gives them a greater sense of self. Next, we are doing UDL for ADHD. When I looked through most of the reading, it was basically saying the 504 plan usually has a list of sensible accommodations. However, if a student does not have that in place, of course, you would have to put those accommodations. So some accommodations that I felt were very good to most of the ADHD cases I've seen were seating students in quiet areas, allowing them to stand in class. I feel that is actually a big one, especially for a student that has so much energy. And those were just a few. They also have them based on what type of ADHD and how that student functions, which I thought was really critical. Goal setting is also important and complements organization skills, which is something that students with ADHD have a hard time with and is key in helping them progress. This allows students with ADHD to participate and interact with the curriculum more effectively. And then the video self-modeling, it shows students videos of themselves performing skills correctly, so this reinforces their positive habits and behaviors and teaches them effective work skills. So now I'm talking about UDL for learning with intellectual disabilities, and I have e-readers, computer-based reading supports, and audio tape cassettes. The audio tape cassettes and the computer-based reading supports, they weren't as valid in the reading as their e-readers, but I listed them because before e-readers were readily available for students and that technology wasn't on hand. Audio tapes and computer-based reading supports were a big thing. However, some of them are very complex as well, so the e-readers give students the chance to be highly visually and give auditory feedback. And when discussing UDL for individuals with intellectual disabilities, iPads and Nooks were useful as well, but they require more assistance and they gave less enhancement features. So the e-readers were the more go-to source. And what was the next one? So the next one is UDL for multiple disabilities. Implementing sorry, my computer, there it goes. Oh, I just did this one. Goodness. So, electronic technologies are a big gain for students with multiple disabilities. Many of the devices, they're portable and can include other devices. Our literature was highlighting Pocket Pass because of its design and options it gives students with disabilities. It allows them to be more engaged and active in their daily routines and education, so it helps them be self-motivated and self-determined in their own right. So that follows the UDL principles. Next, we had the UDL with autism. So autism, it basically has impairments in language and social development. However, we already talked more about the language development, so I'm just going to discuss the social aspect. Teaching students how to communicate and interact with others helps them learn problem solving and solution strategies. So the team aspect and environment is also important to function in society. So since students with autism have trouble recognizing emotions, goal setting as well as software is implemented into teaching them. And I have listed some social development and goal setting skills that I had found in the text. So this is UDL with physical disabilities. So they have the National Instruction Material Accessibility Standard, or NEMAS, and they have to have print-related information to follow IDEA's rulings for UDL. So electronic or e-texts are used mainly through media players and digital documents, but there are other ways to use these formats, so you don't have to access the latter. So digital talking book formats and other Microsoft products, which I have listed on the PowerPoint, allow students to use products to create content such as text-to-speech through reader programs, and it helps promote self-directed learning. And this one talks about UDL through traumatic brain injury. Students who have suffered from traumatic brain injuries have difficulties when it comes to paying attention during class. So what helps them is giving them information in fragments. So listed above is a key about pacing students to grasp concepts gradually, and electronic aids are also used and incorporated into the learning material to help students gain better mastery. Next, we have UDL for students with hearing loss. Based on a student's learning style, you should tailor the learning around which model suits them best based on their communication style. When focusing on this, UDL mainly talked about real-time captioning for students with hearing loss or who are deaf. This allows them to have the ability to independently learn and participate fully in classroom interaction and discussion. Next, we talk about UDL for visual impairments, and basically it just talked about tactile and kinesthetic approaches. So basically making sure students are comprehending text and transcribing into Braille was a big part of this lesson. This is just so they can master daily living skills, orientation, and mobility. This helps students with disabilities be more self-determined and feel equal to their peers who don't have those disabilities. And the last one, we talked about students who are gifted, and these are some keys. I think my favorite part was the compact the curriculum, because it didn't focus on making a student go to a new grade. It just focused on tailoring the lesson and making it more in-depth. And overall, I feel like UDL and DI, they help students' needs be met by giving them the ability to achieve regardless of any differences they have. And that is key and critical. And here is my reference. Thank you.